always thought losing my parents would be the hardest thing I'd ever face. I was wrong. The real heartbreak came afterward. In the quiet moments when the house felt too big, too cold, too empty, and when my only brother, Daniel, looked at me like I was a stranger he'd been forced to tolerate. The day we buried our parents, Dallas was drenched in a heavy gray haze, the kind that sinks into your bones. I remember gripping the edge of my mother's coffin as if holding on could stop everything else from slipping out of place. But Daniel stood several feet away from me, arms crossed, jaw tight, refusing to look in my direction. Not even grief could bring us together. When the lawyer read the will a week later, and most of the estate was placed in my name, any little piece of brotherly affection I hoped still existed evaporated. He didn't argue. He didn't speak. He just walked out of the office and never looked back. I tried calling. I tried visiting. I tried reminding him that we were all we had left. But he cut me off, blocked my number, avoided my visits, and made sure every door I knocked on remained closed. When he got married months later, the wedding invitations went out to extended family, friends, co-workers, everyone but me. I found out through a photo someone posted on Facebook. Daniel in a tux, his new wife on his arm, both smiling like their lives had never known a single crack. That night, sitting alone in my parents' house with the AC humming in the background, I made myself a quiet promise. If he didn't want to be part of my life, I would stop begging for a connection that hurt more than it healed. But pain has a strange way of circling back. Because 2 years later, after ignoring me, after abandoning me, after treating me like a burden, Daniel showed up on my doorstep. And he wasn't wearing a tux this time. He was ruined. Hello. Destroyed from the inside out. When I opened the door, his voice cracked as he whispered, "Marissa, please. I have nowhere else to go." And for the first time in years, I didn't know whether to open my home or close my heart. When Daniel appeared on my doorstep that evening, I barely recognized him. His suit was worn, shoes scuffed, eyes hollow, not the proud, arrogant brother who had refused to invite me to his wedding. His voice trembled, his hands shook, and every word he spoke carried the weight of a man who had lost everything. "Marissa, I need your help," he said, almost whispering, avoiding my gaze. I studied him, my chest tightening. Memories of the past 2 years came rushing back. The wedding he never invited me to, the silent messages I'd sent that were ignored, the sting of knowing that when our parents passed, he chose resentment over family. "Daniel," I started, my voice steady but icy. "You left me behind. You didn't even try to talk, not once. Why should I help you now?" He flinched at my words, but I saw the desperation flicker in his eyes. I didn't know who else to turn to," he murmured. "Everything's gone. She took everything. My house, my savings, my life, Marissa. I was wrong. I'm begging you." I felt a twist of pity and anger. He had spent 2 years treating me like I didn't exist, yet here he was, expecting a second chance. I wanted to slam the door, to let him face the world alone as he had left me. But part of me, the part that remembered our childhood, remembered laughter and whispered secrets and promises to always have each other's backs. That part hesitated. "Sit down," I said finally, my voice controlled. "We need to talk. I need to know everything, not just about her taking your money. I want to know why you turned against me in the first place." Daniel sank into the couch, rubbing his face. He looked smaller than I remembered, fragile even, and I realized that the man who once seemed so untouchable was completely vulnerable now. "You don't understand," he said finally, voice trembling. "I was angry. I thought the will was unfair. I thought Mom and Dad, maybe they wanted me to have it, not you. And I resented you for it. I resented seeing you getting everything I thought I deserved." I nodded slowly. It was a bitter truth. Greed, jealousy, and pride had poisoned him against me. And yet now, with his world collapsed, he was asking for mercy. I could see it in his eyes. He hadn't just lost money. He had lost pride, control, and the illusion of superiority he had held over me. I didn't answer immediately. I just watched him, waiting for the part of him that might still be my brother to surface. And deep down, I knew the next decision I made would change everything, for both of us. I stayed quiet for a long moment, letting the hum of the Dallas evening fill the silence between us. Daniel sat hunched on the couch, staring at his hands, and for the first time I noticed how worn he looked, more than just financially. Years of bitterness, poor decisions, and pride had carved lines into his face that weren't there before. "I can't just hand over money to you," I said finally, my voice firm. "Not after everything. You abandoned me when I needed you most. You didn't even invite me to your wedding." He flinched at the words. I know I was wrong. I was stupid, Marissa. I let my ego, my pride, blind me. I thought I was protecting myself, but I was just hurting you. And now," his voice broke, "now I have nothing. Please, I'm begging you. Just help me. A place to stay, some money, anything." I looked at him, really looked, and felt a storm of emotions. Anger, yes. Hurt, absolutely. But there was also that old thread of family loyalty I could never sever entirely. He had once been my protector too, my only sibling. Could I really turn him away? "What about your wife?" I asked carefully. "Didn't she take everything?" "Yeah, she did," he admitted, voice hollow. She manipulated me. I didn't see it coming. And now she's gone, taking the last of what I had. I have nothing left, Marissa. I lost everything because I was blind. I weighed his words. Helping him would be an act of mercy, but also a risk. Could I trust him? Could I let him back into my life without reopening old wounds? "I'll tell you this," I said slowly. "You can stay, but on my terms. You follow my rules. You respect my space. And you start taking responsibility for your own life. No excuses. No manipulation. Understood?" He nodded quickly, relief flooding his face. "Yes, anything. Thank you, Marissa. I won't forget this." And just like that he moved in. But even as I showed him kindness, a shadow lingered at the edge of my thoughts. 2 years of resentment don't vanish overnight. And I had a feeling that Daniel's downfall was just the beginning, that his past choices and mine would soon catch up with both of us. That night I lay awake, wondering how someone you once loved could become almost unrecognizable, and how forgiveness could feel so heavy. Because letting him in didn't mean I had forgotten. It meant I was preparing for whatever came next. The first few weeks after Daniel moved in were tense. Every corner of my Dallas home reminded me of the life I had fought to preserve after our parents' death. And now I was sharing it with a brother who had once treated me like a stranger. Daniel tried to act normal. He did the dishes, cleaned up after himself, even offered to help around the house. But there was an awkwardness to every gesture, the kind that whispered, "He knows he's indebted, but he still resents you." One evening, while I was making dinner, he broke the silence. "Marissa, I've been thinking," he said, rubbing the back of his neck nervously. "I should have told you everything years ago. Why I turned against you. Not just about the will. There's more." Paused, spatula in hand. "More? What do you mean?" He hesitated, and I saw the old pride flicker in his eyes. The same pride that had made him walk away from me in the first place. "It's complicated, and I was too blind to see it. I let my jealousy and anger guide me. But I think my wife was planning this all along. She wanted everything from me, and she knew how to use me against you." Froze. The puzzle pieces clicked. Daniel hadn't just lost his money. He'd been manipulated from the very start. And maybe that explained the cruelty he'd shown me. He was lashing out, caught in a web of betrayal he didn't fully understand. "Daniel, Why didn't you ever tell me? I asked softly. I didn't want to admit I was so stupid, he said, voice barely above a whisper. I thought I could handle her, but I was wrong. And I let you suffer for it. I sighed, a mix of frustration and pity coursing through me. You don't get to erase the past, I said. But you do get a chance to start fixing things now. With me, with your life, with your pride. But it starts with honesty. Absolute honesty. He nodded, swallowing hard. I'll try. I swear, Marissa. No more lies. No more hiding. I just don't know where to start. I smiled faintly, a small spark of hope lighting inside me. Then we start today. Step by step. But remember, I saved you once. I won't keep saving you if you don't want to help yourself. That night, I lay awake thinking about the fragility of pride, the weight of betrayal, and how even the people closest to you can be the ones who hurt you most. And yet, even in the darkness, I felt the faint stirrings of something powerful. The possibility of rebuilding not just our lives, but our bond. But deep down, I knew one thing for certain. This was just the beginning. It wasn't long before Daniel's ex-wife began casting a shadow over our fragile peace. I didn't know her personally, but her presence was everywhere. In the accounts that had vanished, in the messages Daniel hadn't deleted, and in the bitterness he carried like a weight too heavy to put down. One evening, Daniel sat on the living room sofa, phone in hand, staring at the screen as if it held the answers to a puzzle he had no hope of solving. She wants more, Marissa, he muttered, voice tight. Even after the divorce, she's demanding things, threatening to drag me back into court. I don't have it. I can't face her. I watched him, heart a mix of anger and pity. The man who had once scorned me now looked like a child trying to survive a storm he couldn't control. You let her control your life for 2 years, I said firmly. You can't do that anymore. She doesn't get to dictate how we live or how you live, Daniel. Not here. Not with me. He looked up at me, eyes glossy with unshed tears. I don't know what I would have done without you. I know I hurt you. I know I pushed you away when I should have been leaning on you. I took a deep breath. You did hurt me, Daniel. But I can't live in the past forever. You need to take responsibility for yourself now. That's how you reclaim your life, and maybe even your dignity. He nodded slowly, as if the weight of that truth was heavier than anything else. I'll try, Marissa. I promise. For the first time I saw a flicker of the brother I used to know, the one who could laugh, who could care, who wasn't consumed by ego or jealousy. But it was fragile, and I knew one misstep could break it all. Over the next few weeks, Daniel began taking small steps, applying for jobs, managing what little money he had left, even looking at apartments outside my house. But each time he faltered, I saw the shadow of his ex-wife loom, threatening to pull him back into the chaos he had left behind. I realized something then. Helping him wasn't just about money or shelter. It was about guiding him to stand on his own, to face the consequences of his pride and mistakes, and to rebuild the person he had lost. And as I watched him struggle and slowly rise from the ruins of his own making, I felt a quiet strength stir inside me. I had lost my parents. I had been abandoned by my own brother. Yet here I was, still capable of forgiveness, still capable of shaping the future, not just for Daniel but for myself. But deep down I knew one truth. Even the strongest foundations can crack under betrayal, and Daniel's redemption wouldn't come easily. By now, Daniel had been living with me for months. The initial tension had softened into an uneasy routine. Him tiptoeing around my rules, me watching his every move with cautious eyes. But I could feel it. The moment of reckoning was coming. One rainy evening, he approached me in the kitchen while I was chopping vegetables. His face was pale, eyes wide with desperation. Marissa, I need more time. The money I saved isn't enough, and the apartment I found. His voice faltered. I can't move in yet. I don't know what to do. I stopped mid-chop, knives hovering in the air. The anger that had simmered under my skin for 2 years flared. Daniel, we agreed. You get up, you get out, you take responsibility. I'm not your safety net forever. I know, he exclaimed, his voice cracking. I wouldn't ask if I had any other choice. Please, Marissa. I don't have anywhere else to go. I looked at him, really looked at him, and for the first time I understood the depth of his dependence. It wasn't just financial. He was emotionally broken, stripped of pride, wandering in the ruins of his own choices. You had 2 years to think about how you treated me, I said quietly. And now you're asking me to bail you out again. Do you have any idea how that feels? I do. I know I hurt you. I know I abandoned you, he shouted. But I'm begging, Marissa. I'm begging for one last chance. Not just for me, but for us. I don't want to be lost anymore. I studied him, my heart pounding. Could I forgive him? Could I risk opening that door again, knowing how easily he had closed it before? Finally I sighed and nodded. One last chance, I said, my voice steady. But listen to me carefully. You will get your independence. I will not keep bailing you out. You will pay your own way. You will take responsibility. If you fail, Daniel, you're on your own. His face broke into relief and gratitude, but I could see the tension beneath the surface, the struggle between his pride and his survival. That night, I lay awake, thinking about the strange balance of mercy and power. I had the upper hand now, the one who could say yes or no. And yet, even as I helped him, I couldn't ignore the lesson hidden in every betrayal. Sometimes letting someone fall teaches them more than catching them ever could. I knew the coming days would test us both. For him it was survival. For me it was forgiveness. And neither of us could afford to fail. Weeks passed, and Daniel was slowly standing on his own 2 feet. He had found a small job, saved a little, and even started to regain some of his pride. But the shadow of his ex-wife still lingered. Her manipulations hadn't ended, and I knew she was planning her next move. One afternoon, Daniel burst into the living room, face pale, eyes wide. Marissa, she's coming after me again, he stammered. I don't know what she's planning, but it's bad. I can't handle it alone. I looked at him, feeling a mix of fear and fury. Daniel, you've been given everything you need to protect yourself, except your courage. Now you need to face her. No more hiding. No more excuses. He hesitated, shame flickering across his face. I don't know if I can. I stepped closer, my voice firm but steady. You can, Daniel. You survived her once. You can survive her again. But you have to fight. Not just for money or property, but for your dignity. That evening he called her, finally confronting the woman who had destroyed him. He spoke with a confidence I hadn't seen in years, asserting boundaries, reclaiming what was rightfully his, and refusing to be intimidated. I watched silently, my heart swelling with a mixture of pride and vindication. When the call ended, Daniel turned to me, tears brimming. I did it. I stood up to her. I finally took control of my life. I smiled, my chest tight with emotion. Good. That's the man I know. The brother I've always wanted by my side. For the first time in years, the house felt lighter, freer. The wounds of the past weren't fully healed, but we had survived together. Daniel had faced the consequences of his pride, and I had discovered the strength to forgive, without losing myself in the process. That night, I realized something profound. Betrayal doesn't have to define you. It can teach you, shape you, and even empower you, if you have the courage to rise above it. And as I looked at Daniel, sleeping peacefully on the couch, I knew that our bond, though fractured, had been reforged stronger than before. We had both paid a price. But now we could finally move forward. Months had passed since Daniel confronted his ex-wife, and slowly, Life returned to a fragile normal. He had moved into his own apartment, started rebuilding his savings, and even managed to repair some of his reputation at work. As for me, Marissa, I had learned to trust myself, my judgment, my boundaries, and my ability to forgive without losing power. The house that once felt like a tomb of grief now felt like a sanctuary, a place where strength and compassion could coexist. One evening, Daniel came over for dinner. He was smiling, relaxed, and I could see he was genuinely proud of how far he had come. "Thank you, Marissa," he said quietly. "I wouldn't be here without you, not just with the help, but for showing me what it means to take responsibility, to face my mistakes, to rise again." I smiled, a warmth spreading through me that I hadn't felt in years. "You did it yourself, Daniel. I only gave you the chance. You chose to change. And that's the most important part." We shared a quiet moment, knowing that the wounds of the past would never fully disappear, but also knowing that we had grown stronger because of them. I realized then that life had a way of testing you, sometimes through loss, betrayal, or heartbreak. But those trials weren't meant to break you. They were meant to teach you who you really are. I had survived the grief of losing my parents, the pain of being abandoned by my brother, and the weight of being betrayed. And in doing so, I had discovered my own strength, resilience, and capacity to forgive. Daniel had learned humility, accountability, and the courage to rebuild. And together we had both found a way forward. The lesson was clear. Life will challenge you, sometimes cruelly. People may betray you, abandon you, or take what's yours. But your true power lies in how you respond, in standing firm, setting boundaries, and rising stronger than before. Forgiveness is a gift, not for the betrayer, but for yourself. Because when you honor your strength, even the deepest wounds can lead to triumph.
If this story gave you chills, hit that like button, subscribe, and tell me in the comments, what's the most satisfying revenge you've ever seen play out?